From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN Noon News.
Good afternoon. I'm Dianne Parker. Miller has our Wednesday forecast. Plus, life-saving healthcare is coming to the Northern Cheyenne Reservation after some 50 tribal members have died while needing dialysis. But first, our top story. The search is over for the 27-year-old woman who went missing while horseback riding near Helena last week as search and rescue teams recovered the body of Megan Rounds in 11 feet of water. Lewis and Clark County Sheriff Leo Dutton says her body was found in the Missouri River Tuesday afternoon. It will be taken to the crime lab in Missoula to help determine the cause and manner of death. However, no foul play is suspected. Rounds was reported missing last Friday near the McMaster Recreation Area. Several agencies and hundreds of volunteers assisted in search efforts. Authorities are seeking the public's help in finding a missing 13-year-old girl from Garryowen. Sawade Bird and Ground was last seen at her home Sunday night, but when family went to wake her up Monday, she wasn't in her room. Her family says she has mental health issues, and now there is concern for her safety. Bird and Ground is 5'4" with brown eyes and hair, and was last seen wearing a black hoodie, an anime t-shirt, and purple shoes. Anyone with information is asked to call the Bighorn County Sheriff's Office. Big news out of Lame Deer, Montana, as it plans a brand new dialysis center. It is a lifeline to a community struggling with high diabetes rates and a 220-mile round trip for life-saving care. However, that road to medical sovereignty is paved with bumps along the way, following a few dialysis centers that failed over the past 40 years. I attended the official ground blessing ceremony, showing for multiple tribal members dialysis is a death sentence, but there is hope.
We're all dreading winter because the roads get really icy. You never know what the weather's going to be like.
She leaves at 9 o'clock in the morning. She don't get home till 5:30 in the evening. There was times that she wanted to give up.
On this day, Lame Deer dialysis patient Elsie Standing Elk Wick and her daughters attend a ground blessing in Lame Deer for a new on-reservation dialysis center expected to open in December. But most of Elsie's life, it seems, is spent in the car or in the dialysis chair, and that's the life many are choosing to give up on, contributing to the nearly 50 empty chairs at the ground blessing, filled only by the memories of those who died while needing dialysis.
15 to 20 people traveling. People make choices, right? The choice is I'm going to live at home and be with my family instead of go get care. The rate of diabetes within tribal nations, I have no doubt that this clinic will serve a great number of people. It goes back to historical food replacement in tribal nations.
Keith Novensky works for Indigenous Pact, a woman-owned business focused on health equity. His role to create the prototype for a functioning rural dialysis center.
We bring a smaller solution close to home. This clinic is 4,000 square feet in size. It can treat at any given moment 12 patients. We could do morning sessions, afternoon sessions. Since it's every other day, we can have a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday.
But even council members like Melissa Lone Bear say it's a big financial risk for the tribe after a feasibility study said no to the project due to clean water, staffing, and funding.
When I got the results of the feasibility study, I told them that it wasn't acceptable. I explained that we have to make this work for our people.
The Lone Bear's father and aunt's memories sit in the chairs. Picture proof local access to health care is critical.
I commend the tribal leadership in taking this really a bold step. Once it's up and running, other people will see the value.
In Lame Deer, Dianne Parker, MTN News. A former Montana resident who now lives in Florida had her home crushed by Hurricane Helene. She's now bracing for Milton's landfall late this evening. Helene has left more than 230 people dead, and its debris poses a danger. MTN's Charlie Kleps has the story.
As the southeastern United States continue to pick up the pieces from Hurricane Helene, they're also simultaneously bracing themselves for Hurricane Milton. It's a devastating circumstance, and for one woman who was born and raised right here in Montana, these storms are unlike anything she's ever seen.
The wind was howling like 110 15 to 125 miles an hour pretty continuously.
As the storm surge of Helene hit the banks of southern Georgia,
So it's just like a lot of really scary noises happening around you.
an eerie feeling swept across the region.
I was terrified. I mean, being from Montana and not having to worry about things like a hurricane.
For Talia Hansen, who was born and raised in Livingston, Montana, the storm was as unfamiliar as it was frightening.
You don't know how it's going to impact you as an individual. You don't know how it's going to impact your friends or your neighbors. You don't know if you're going to make it out A-okay or if you're going to lose everything.
For Hansen, it was unfortunately the latter. This was the shape of her and her fiance's home when they returned after Helene had passed, with a tree splitting it in half.
Seeing just like the demolishment of a lot of the things that you worked really hard for and you've made like life changes for is pretty heartbreaking.
Their devastation felt by many, with more potential damage on the way.
It's going to be catastrophic around the Tampa Bay area, the winds, of course, and the flooding beyond that.
With Hurricane Milton ripping towards the Florida coast, longtime Georgia resident and MTN meteorologist Miller Robson says the damage could get worse.
It's a rare situation for them. My heart goes out to them. A lot of prayer for those folks down there, still cleaning up from Helene, and probably not going to get the job done quick enough before this next one comes in.
We're tired. I mean, we're all really tired of it. Things are just starting to get back to normal. And now the looming threat, the imminent danger that comes with a storm like that.
The fears leaving residents like Hansen exhausted, trying to focus on what's important.
It's just stuff. It's all going to be replaceable. We can figure it out. Fortunately, we are all safe, and that at the end of the day is what's most important.
In Billings, Charlie Kleps, MTN News.
Firefighters continue to make progress on the Elk Fire in Sheridan County, Wyoming. It is now 16% contained and has burned nearly 76,000 acres. Some 800 firefighters are battling the blaze, focusing now on the southern fire lines as the northeast containment line has already been constructed. For the latest on evacuation orders, visit your local MTN website.
Hopefully Wednesday's been a great one for you so far. Happy hump day, everybody. I'll look at our local forecast coming up. But first, what's going on across the U.S.? Well, much of the U.S., another quiet day today. Still seeing extreme heat down there in the desert Southwest, where we've got triple digits again in Phoenix today. And then, of course, Milton, west coast of the Florida Peninsula, getting ready for Hurricane Milton, which is going to be a major hurricane still by the time it makes landfall late tonight, early tomorrow morning, with potentially catastrophic storm surge, very heavy rainfall, and also the possibility where we can see some tornado activity out ahead of Milton making landfall. We'll take a look at the latest on Milton coming up and our local forecast too.
Between them, Constitutional Initiatives 126 and 127 would make the biggest changes in decades in how Montana elects its leaders. Supporters of the measures say those changes would put the power back in the hands of voters, but not everyone is on board. Currently, Montana primary voters get multiple ballots, one for each party. They choose anyone they want and vote for only candidates in that party's primary. The top vote getter from each party moves on to the general election. If CI 126 passes, all candidates will appear on the same primary ballot with their preferred party listed. Voters choose one candidate for each office, and the top four finishers, regardless of party, will move on to the general election. CI 127 would change the rules for the general election. Instead of just the candidate with the most votes winning, it would require a candidate get a majority, at least 50%, to win. The legislature will have to pass a law to set up the system for what happens when no candidates get a majority.
It's not special interests, it's not parties, it's about people. And this incentivizes behavior in our elected representatives that requires them to build coalitions, to govern more broadly.
Frank Garner, a former Republican lawmaker from Kalispell, is a board member for the group sponsoring CI 126 and 127. On Monday, he debated the measures in Helena with another former GOP legislator, Matthew Monforton of Bozeman. Monforton says under CI 126, there may be multiple candidates from a single party in the general election, and the ballot won't show which candidate is actually preferred by that party.
And there will be no way for any political party, whether it's a major party or a minor party, to be able to rebut that and communicate with the voters through the ballot and say, no, this person really doesn't represent us.
The only state that currently has a top 4 primary system is Alaska. There are top 2 elections in California and Washington. Paul Pope, a political science professor at MSU Billings, says every state's outcome will be different, but there is reason to think changing the primary system could have an impact.
The most die-hard Republicans, the most die-hard Democrats, who tend to be out on the wings of the party, they're more likely to vote in the primary than what we see in the general election. And if there's a little mixing of who can vote for whom, I think we're going to end up with probably less extreme candidates.
There are 5 other states where voters will be considering ballot measures to create top 2, 4, or 5 primaries this year: Idaho, South Dakota, Colorado, Nevada, and Arizona. In Helena, Jonathan Amberian, MTN News.